All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
It's the Mark Thompson Show. I think I'm back. Maybe Mark changed his mind. Maybe Mark said, you know, one day was enough. I was on vacation. I came back and said, I don't want to do this anymore. But Mark, no, to be serious, Mark had some tech issues. And it's me, Mo Kelly, filling in for Mark on this brief occasion as the world seemingly is coming apart at the seams. Let me just say this first and foremost. There's a difference between a lie and also circumstances changing. But we have to ascertain which is which. Something changed. Something incredibly different is happening on Capitol Hill right now. We know recently, over the course of the weekend, President Trump decided unilaterally, all by himself, seemingly against all what we knew prior to now, that it would be a good idea for the Republicans to get on board and release all of the Epstein files, and if it passed in the House and Senate, that he would sign off on that. And it's weird because he really didn't need Congress's approval. He could just do it. But as far as the public histrionics go, Trump is now all in on releasing the Epstein files. So the question is, did he lie previously as far as his pressure campaign about not releasing the files, about going after Marjorie Taylor Greene or Nancy Mason, whoever else might have been complicit, my word, in releasing the files? Did he lie then, or did something change? Let me give you a parallel and comparison. Remember when Joe Biden said that he was not going to pardon Hunter Biden? He swore up and down that he was not going to pardon Hunter Biden. And then near the end of his term, he changed his mind and said, I'm pardoning Hunter Biden. Now, me personally, I didn't agree with that. I didn't like that. But it said to me that something must have changed. And if you look at the big picture, a lot did change. Joe Biden, when he first made that statement, thought that he was going to be the Democratic nominee for president and run for a second term. It didn't turn out that way. New information. He probably thought that Kamala Harris, as his successor, would win the election in 2024 and then further insulate Hunter Biden against MAGA foolishness. Didn't turn out that way. New information. Now, those on the right would say Joe Biden lied. I think it was new information. The circumstances had changed. So I would use that as a jumping off point to talking about what happened right now with Donald Trump. Did he lie, or did something change? Does he know something? Does he have insider information? Check out this video with Caitlin Collins, who has a similar question about why the 180-degree switch by Trump on this issue.
Where President Trump just got asked about that complete 180 that he's done on the discharge petition on Capitol Hill, calling for the release of all of the Epstein files that are in the possession of the Justice Department.
You urged House Republicans to vote in favor of this Epstein release bill they're going to vote on tomorrow. I just want to be super clear on your position. Do you want to see that pass the Senate? Would you sign that bill if it gets to your desk?
We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others, they're all Democrats. All I want is for people to recognize the great job that I've done. So I'm all for it.
Now, Thomas Massie, the Republican who's been leading the charge on that discharge petition, responded to the president saying he'll sign it by saying that he looks forward to attending the signing ceremony at the White House. That's obviously tongue-in-cheek, given the White House has been criticizing Thomas Massie. The president called him Rand Paul Jr., a reference to another Republican who has drawn the president's ire at times. Now, the president pointed to those investigations that he has directed his attorney general to conduct into Democrats who were named in those newly released Epstein emails. He said it was only Democrats that had associations with Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, there are photos and videos of the two of them together, and he personally named Trump in those new emails that also came out in recent days.
Does President Trump know something? Now, it's not, I'll say, unforeseen or even surprising that the president would try to blame all this Epstein hype on the Democrats, an alleged lie that only Democrats are connected to Jeffrey Epstein, which would then beg the question, well, if only Democrats are connected to Jeffrey Epstein, why would the Democrats want the Epstein documents released? And it makes you wonder, and I say this knowing full and well that Jeffrey Epstein's brother gave a statement to TMZ recently saying that he believes that these Epstein files are being scrubbed of Republicans. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. And I know that there is a history of the White House, a Trump administration, the previous Trump administration, obfuscating, delaying, calling into question the authenticity of documents which are being released. And conspiracy theories aside, it is a reasonable question to have whether what we're going to receive at the end of it all is going to be the complete and unredacted Epstein files or some sort of political propaganda to best position the president in the light which is less incriminating. I don't know if they can scrub any and all references to Donald Trump, since he's mentioned some 1,600 times, some ridiculous number, but it does call into question what changed. Why would President Trump be adamantly against the release of this Democratic hoax, or as he say, Democrat hoax, and then say, okay, release them all. I want everyone to be on board. Something has changed. Now, let's go to Congress right now. Let's go to Capitol Hill and see what, let's say, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has to say on this. Is he politicizing it or something else? Check this out.
Jordan, for doing such an extraordinary job on all of this. For 43 long days, the Democrats held this House and the entire country hostage. Finally, with the lights back on, this body's returning to our regular legislative session. We have a lot of work to do. My colleagues on this side of the chamber are ready and eager to get back to our urgent legislative work that we promised the American people we would do. We've got to continue lowering the cost of health care. We've got to bring down prices for American families, and we've got to finish the regular appropriations process, just to name a few of those priorities. And I wish I could say that our first order of business would be to get to those urgent priorities, but of course we're here spending time on the floor about something else. This is something we could have resolved last week when we brought a unanimous consent to pass this discharge with the full support of the body. But our friends over here who are arguing today stalled that. They objected to it, and they wanted to have this exercise instead. And that's why we say that this is a show vote. That's what this is. They're making a show of it. And it really is a shame. We have some heroic women in the chamber today. I met with many of them a while back. They're in the gallery here. They have come forward. They have shown their faces. They've used their names to share the unspeakable tragedies that many of them were subjected to, some of them when they were very young. And it is a heroic service to the country. They are seeking justice, and the justice has been delayed for too long. The Department of Justice, many years ago, should have brought these charges. It took too long to do it. And now we're in this process of making sure all the American people get the information, but we have to do it in the right way, After 4 years of Democrat control under President Biden, they were not truthful with us about a lot of things. The Democrats insisted the border was secure. We knew it wasn't. They insisted that inflation was...
I've heard enough, Speaker Johnson. I appreciate his attempts to deflect and deny and dismiss and parse blame and somehow make this a political issue in and of itself, as opposed to being a substantive issue regarding sexual assault. I understand why he's doing this. He's trying to blunt the impact of whatever's going to come out. And if you want to tune out and say that it's all political, you don't know what to believe, that is the actual point of it all. You would have the Speaker of the House saying that the Democrats are delaying when he was the one who could have had Adelita Grijalva become a member of Congress and sworn her in weeks ago, separate and distinct from the shutdown. Now, Mike Johnson, he's great at presenting a thin veneer and facade of respectability. That's what he's good at. He's actually better at it than Kevin McCarthy was. But if you actually follow this story, if you actually know what has been going on, if you know the stalling attempts and the attempts of Mike Johnson to delay this very moment, this quote unquote show vote, then you would not be fooled. but that is Mike Johnson. So, and we're going to get into more of this later on at the top of the second hour with David Cay Johnston, who's going to talk more about the Epstein Files. So I'm going to save some of that for him later on. But there is more than one story happening right now. We know what's happening on Capitol Hill with the Epstein Files. We know that Trump committed a whole 180. First, he didn't want the files. Now he wants the files. Something changed. And let me just say this before I move on to the next subject. If you are concerned about the authenticity or the veracity or the specific nature of the Epstein documents, that they are legitimate, that they've not been redacted or edited in some way, I understand that. But there is some recourse here. We know that with the cases, that anything that is on file in the Justice Department, we know that the lawyers, the attorneys for the victims have that same information. And once it's been allowed to be released, you will have the lawyers almost running parallel to whatever the federal government releases to make sure that it's accurate and it's in this correct form. So that we will have some degree of backstop against whatever may be given to us to blunt the impact and full force of these files. And also, let's not forget, once these files have been released by the federal government, we can also compare them against the Epstein state records. So we will have an opportunity to push back against anything which may seem not quite right or suspect from this administration. So we should prepare for it, but there are also contingencies for it. And this is running parallel to the special guest. You have Mohammed bin Salman, who's going to be coming from Saudi Arabia, the king, the crown prince.
Oh, he's here.
Oh, he's here. Oh, is he in the White House already?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Here's the pomp and circumstance at the arrival.
Yes, look at this for a moment.
Seeing the horses, the military on horseback, and the
Hey, Kim, I got to ask
band.
you, isn't MBS Muslim? Isn't he?
I think so.
Okay, I was under the impression that Donald Trump was concerned and other MAGA were concerned about Zohran Mamdani because he was Muslim as well. And he
no. Saudi Arabia pays cash, Mo, so that it makes it okay.
Oh, okay. But I thought that I was looking on social media and all the memes were that electing Mamdani was going to lead to a second 9/11. I was under the impression that 9/11 was committed in large part due to Saudi cooperation. Did I have that wrong?
Yeah, I think you got that right, my friend.
That's weird. So why would then Trump? Okay, never mind. It's all too much for me. It's too much for me. I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
All
Again,
about the cold hard cash.
Maybe something changed, Kim. Maybe something changed where some Muslims from Saudi Arabia or the Middle East, more generally, they're okay, and others like Zohran Mamdani, who are actually American citizens, are not? Question mark. I am Ron Burgundy. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm looking for consistency, maybe where it does not exist. And speaking of this,
let me just say, not only does he welcome him to the White House, but Trump called Prince Mohammed bin Salman a brilliant man. So there's a lot of love being thrown around. As a matter of fact, they are in the Oval Office, and they're having this big press conference.
Wow, look at that gold.
Continue to do that. Oil prices in the mid-60s.
Yeah, we are not creating fake opportunities to, please America, please Trump. It's real opportunities. For example, when you ask about the AI and the chips, Saudi Arabia have a huge demand a huge need of computing power, and we're gonna spend in the short term around $50 billion by consuming those semiconductors for our needs in Saudi Arabia. And with the agreement that we're gonna have with South America, that will allow us to focus that consuming power in short term by $50 billion from the South America, and long term with hundreds of billions of dollars in the long term. So there's a lot of real opportunities that fit to our need in Saudi Arabia and fit to our investment strategy.
Mr. President, is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office.
Who are you with? Who are you
Why
with?
should Americans trust
Who are you with?
And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news, ABC fake news, one of the
But the
worst,
question is
one of the
legitimate,
worst
sir.
in the business. But I'll answer your question.
Thank you.
I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot. And anything they've done has been very good. That's what we've done. We've built a tremendous business for a long time. I've been very successful. I decided to leave that success behind and make America very successful. And I've made America more successful by far than it ever was, and that it ever could have been, no matter who was president. There would be nobody bringing in $21 trillion, that I can tell you right now. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it. And we
Things
can leave it
happen?
at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
He was dismembered.
That's the way I understand it.
I feel painful about families of 9/11 in America, but we have to focus on reality. Reality based on CIA documents and based on a lot of documents that Osama bin Laden used Saudi people at that event for one main purpose, is to destroy this relation, to destroy the American-Saudi relation. That's the purpose of 9/11. So whoever buying that, that means they are helping Osama bin Laden's purpose of destroying this relation. He knows that strong relation between America and Saudi Arabia is bad for extremism, it's bad for terrorism. And we have to...
Tony, I'm going to jump in there. I can only take so much propaganda in one half an hour. It's propaganda because we know for a fact that there was a level of involvement by the Saudi crown prince with the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. And the question by the ABC News reporter, I was actually pleased with, because it was one which was distinct, clear, and reiterated. Now, we knew that we weren't going to get a serious answer from this president, but at least at the very minimum, you asked the question. A lot of times I will see on social media and elsewhere, people will ask me, it's like, why even ask the president these questions when you know that he's either going to lie, deflect, or just not even address the question at all? It's like the White House press corps has the responsibility and duty to, at the minimum, ask the question and get the president and the administration, if it's Caroline Leavitt, on the record. That's what you do. You can't control the answer, but you can control the question and the follow-up. But clearly, if you can use the Saudi crown prince as an example, something must have changed, because now we have Saudi Arabia is our best friend. And when you have the president saying that his family never received any money from Saudi Arabia, I distinctly remember his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, receiving $2 billion from the first Trump administration. I'm old enough to remember. So we know that there's this old saying. Let me back up. There's this old saying. There are no permanent friends. There are no permanent enemies. We have permanent interests. And the permanent interest in connection to Donald Trump is money and power. Those things have never changed. It is in his best financial interests to cozy up to Saudi Arabia, personally and politically, as far as the people that he is enriching in the process of doing business with Saudi Arabia. That interest is not going to change. Now, but if you look at the fullness of Donald Trump, and I want to bring up this one other subject real quick.
The Mark Thompson Show.
In regard to when I started the show, I was talking about how something must have changed. There must be new information, or something substantive must have happened in the background for this 180. We talked about it with Jeffrey Epstein, but if you didn't know, this has always been the case with Donald Trump. He did a 180 on his political views. Remember his views on the Iraq War, his views on abortion. He was a one-time Democrat. Now he's the creator of MAGA. So Donald Trump has never been really tethered to any political ideology, with the exception of money and power. This next video I'm getting ready to show you, and I'm going to show you this before we get to our guest at the bottom of the hour, Jessica Denson, who's the founder of the Removal Coalition. I'm going to tell you about a rally which is coming up on November 22nd in Washington, D.C. Before we get to Jessica, I got to show you this video from Donald Trump in 2008. If you didn't know any better, you would think that it was a completely different person, because everything Donald Trump says about Hillary Clinton in 2008 is another 180 from everything he said about the Clintons in the past week. It is phenomenal. Check this out.
Far from being over. I think her history is far from being over. I'd like to answer that question in another 15 years from now. I think she's going to go down at a minimum as a great senator. I think she is a great wife to a president. And I think Bill Clinton was a great president. You know, you look at the country then. The economy was doing great. Look at what happened during the Clinton years. I mean, we had no war. The economy was doing great. Everybody was happy. A lot of people hated him because they were jealous as hell. You know, people get jealous and they hate you. People don't like him because they're jealous of him. But Bill Clinton was a great president. I mean, I hope we can be so lucky in terms of the economy and in terms of other aspects. I mean, we weren't in wars with two nations. I'm not blaming Afghanistan, by the way, is probably a place that we should be. Iraq, we shouldn't be. Bill Clinton was a great president. Hillary Clinton is a great woman and a good woman.
You said of Hillary Clinton that she was, quote, pretty badly abused during her presidential campaign. Why do you say that?
I thought that they roughed her up pretty good. I think she's a wonderful woman. I think that she's a little bit misunderstood. You know, Hillary's a very smart woman, very tough woman. That's fine. But she's also a very nice person. And I know Hillary, and I know her husband very well. They're fine people. I thought, and, you know, part of that is a rough political battle. I thought she was roughed up. I thought she, and I'm not knocking the other side. You know, you want to win a battle, so if it gets a little bit nasty, it is politics, and politics is a tough game. But I thought she was perhaps unnecessarily roughed up. She took some pretty hard hits.
I could have sworn that was AI. I would have sworn that that was somehow a hostage video, given the Donald Trump that we see every single day now. And for him, here is Donald Trump's superpower in the age of the internet. He is not tethered to anything he has ever said at any time. And the Epstein investigation is a perfect example of it. He can be 100% against the release of the Democrat hoax, Jeffrey Epstein Files, being released on Friday and Saturday. He is willing and ready and encourages all the files to be released because they will only implicate Democrats.
Mo, question. If he really wanted the files released, why doesn't he just release them? He could release them in the next 5 minutes if he wanted to. Why do we even need to go through a House vote, a Senate vote? We don't need to do any of that. If he really wants transparency and if he's really ready to release the files, all he has to do is say the word.
He loves the poorly educated, and he trades on that. That goes back to the whole Speaker Johnson speech about how the Democrats aren't serious about this and they're just grandstanding and they didn't care about the files for 4 years, while denying that the files in the criminal cases were under seal and couldn't be released. The facts do not matter. And that goes back to Trump's superpower, where he is not tethered to reality. He's not tethered to anything he said yesterday. And if you take just an informal poll on social media, it's like all the bots and all the MAGA adherents have their marching orders and they repeat the exact same damn things, fact free. Even though Trump was against the files on Friday and for them on Saturday, everyone in support of the president will do the same 180. It doesn't matter what was said before. It only matters what is said right now. And even though he may have endorsed Marjorie Taylor Greene before and supported Marjorie Taylor Greene before, and even though Marjorie Taylor Greene, to her credit, has not changed as far as her stance on the Epstein files, it is still not enough to keep her out of harm's way from MAGA, when even though she hasn't changed, Trump changed. He campaigned on it. He said that if he were elected, he was going to release them. The only person who has changed has Trump. He's changed more than twice on this issue. He campaigned on it, got to office and said, we can't release them, or I don't want them released. And now he's saying, I want them released. Marjorie Taylor Greene on this issue has not changed. But Trump is not tethered to anything he has ever said, be it about Hillary Clinton in 2008, be it about Marjorie Taylor Greene 6 months ago, be it about the Jeffrey Epstein files 36 hours ago.
Who was a candidate in one presidential election that was damaged by being called a flip-flopper? Remember that? Oh, he's a flip-flopper, flip-flopper.
Oh, other than Mitt Romney?
Maybe that's what it was. I don't know, but Trump definitely a flip-flopper.
Yeah, I know there was some things with Michael Dukakis about flip-flopping, and also John Kerry, but I can't remember who specifically was most penalized for it. But yes, he is not responsible, as in Trump, for anything he says. And even the explanations may be preposterous, illogical, damn near impossible to rationalize. It does not matter. And when you have that superpower, then you can just say anything you want, no matter what. But there is someone who is working specifically to help change that. And I'm going to tell you about the Removal Coalition and also the rally, which is coming up on November 22nd in Washington, D.C. And there's no person better to do that as we go on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Jessica Denson is going to join me right now on the Mark Thompson Show and tell us exactly what is going to be happening in Washington, D.C. on November 22nd, the Removal Coalition, and what we should expect. Jessica, a pleasure to see you and talk to you. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well. Nice to meet you, Mo Kelly. I've never met before.
I'm glad we get to have this conversation. Now, I am someone who admittedly is a cynic. I can be somewhat critical of demonstrations which may be heavy on symbolism, might not have the substance to attach to it. Correct me, please. Disabuse me of that notion in this moment.
This protest is to disabuse everyone of that notion, because we are doing something very, very different here. This is distinct from No Kings. It's distinct from any of the previous mass protests that you've seen, in that we are showing up with an explicit demand. We are showing up to explicitly reclaim the power that is vested in we the people, and demand that our lawmakers who are subservient to us act to impeach and remove this illegal regime, beginning with Donald J. Trump. So we're going to start on Thursday with what we expect to be record-breaking in-person lobbying of Congress, where we are going to go into the halls of Congress peacefully, the antithesis of what happened on January 6th, led in a march by Representative Al Green. And we are going to show up unmistakably in their faces, pleasantly but unmistakably, with the demand that they take action to remove this ludicrous administration from power.
I know you will have Democratic support, probably unanimous Democratic support in that regard.
No.
Really?
No, wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be lovely if we had unanimous Democratic support? If we had unanimous Democratic support, I don't think we'd have to do this rally.
Okay, Jessica, you'd have to name some names. You got to give me at least some reasons why the Democrats seemingly are unanimous against Trump publicly, but you're saying privately not so much.
Privately, they whip their members against impeachment efforts. And they have tried up until recently to punt this conversation to the midterms, which is a fool's errand if there ever was one. We know that Donald Trump is doing everything in his power and outside of his power to try to rig the midterm election so that he wins no matter what. And the House does not shift control. Up until now, the last time an impeachment vote was forced in this administration, the only time, by Representative Al Green over the summer, the Democratic leadership, Hakeem Jeffries, Jamie Raskin, Nancy Pelosi, all of the names that you expect to be the leaders in that caucus were whipping their members against voting for impeachment. They voted to table it. So we have to start. I mean, we talk about moving Republicans, but for God's sakes, they're welcoming Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you're welcoming MAGA, if you're welcoming Marjorie Taylor Greene, why don't you start doing what's right within your own caucus first and stop whipping against the actual actions that are needed to hold this authoritarian president accountable?
What I hear as far as the conventional wisdom of politics, this is not my belief, but this is what I hear from Democrats who say that as a practical matter, we do not have control of the House of Representatives where impeachment remains. And we know that Speaker Johnson is never going to bring articles of impeachment to the floor. Why waste that political capital for, in a practical matter, something which is not going to happen? You're not going to get the majority support of the House, and you're not going to get 2/3 removal support in the Senate. So isn't this just an exercise in futility?
Says who? Says who? I mean, what is politics anyway? What is it? What are we all doing out here? Are we just sitting here to be told by people who are spineless and cowardly what can and cannot be done? I just refuse to accept that construct of politics. I thought politics was a game of persuasion and pressure and moving the needle. And these people in Congress are supposedly supposed to be leaders. They are elected to uphold their oath to the Constitution every single day of the week, not on days when they have the votes. And I'm just, first of all, we only have to move a handful in the House to get a majority vote, to get articles of impeachment out of the House. There's a lot of misunderstanding about House rules and how the articles of impeachment would begin. Any single member of Congress, any single day of the week, even when the government was shut down, could have filed an article of impeachment. And this is a special privilege that any single House member has. They can invoke Rule 9, which says that if an article of impeachment is filed, they can force a vote within 2 days on that article of impeachment. Any member, doesn't have to be in the majority, doesn't have to be on a committee, anyone. That is extremely powerful. Can you imagine if the Democrats were united? You started off saying you have the Democrats united. I'm like, no, we don't. But can you imagine if we had the Democrats united, that entire caucus messaging to the world that we are actually taking action against this regime? That leadership that people are so desperate for, that people were fed up a week ago when those 8 senators caved up, on the shutdown. That spine that people are desperate for, they would be rallied behind. They would be lauded as heroes if they started to take that. And then we use that momentum, we use that narrative shift to then work on the other side, to then work on the Republicans that we have to move. Do we have to move, 17 members or something like that in the Senate? Yeah, 17 mere mortals. 17 mere mortals are holding the future of American democracy hostage, and we have no agency to do something about it. I refuse to act from that premise and that construct.
You make some great points, and I want to follow up on that. When you say the politics of persuasion and also pressure, and I know that feeds into what is happening this week leading into November 22nd. My question is, how much or how little do the events on Capitol Hill with Jeffrey Epstein right now either help or hinder what you're trying to do?
Oh my God, they help 100%. First of all, you're seeing the cracks within that so reliably loyal base of Donald Trump in the halls of power in Congress. You're seeing those cracks already. I'm hearing talk that we may even see a unanimous vote on the discharge petition. That obviously works against him. People are going to, at the end of the day, yes, these people have acted out of extreme cowardice. God knows probably countless of them have been blackmailed by Donald Trump or members of the administration. I mean, this is the Roy Cohn playbook, right? Probably something he's been doing for years. But if their names at the end of the day are tied to what turns out to be the revelations of a child pedophile, a child rapist, who is in the White House, which has been such an issue that MAGA in particular has lauded against and been champions of defending, the innocent children who are victims of sex crimes. Do you think that they want to go down in history as having been tied to that? I think this is perfect timing for us. You know, it's ripe. It's ripe. We are ripe for removal right now.
I agree with everything you say. I'm cynical because I would have thought the exact same thing after January 6th. It's like, look, there were cracks in the Republican support. You had Mitch McConnell out there saying, you know, and even Lindsey Graham offering their criticisms of the president and also laying blame at his feet. And then we saw the future, how it turned out.
And who failed us then? Who failed us then? Let's get real about this. Who failed us then? The Democratic administration failed us. Merrick Garland failed us. Those who were on our own side, who were supposed to be saving democracy, were so scared of what it was going to look like. They had to get back to quote unquote normal. Well, is this what quote unquote normal looks like, for God's sakes? I mean, they need to wake the hell up. I really think, and this is the comparison that's been made that I think is really apt. You know, people have talked about what the Tea Party did to the Republicans, you know, a decade ago or whatever it was, and they basically hijacked them, and they were the inception of what has become MAGA. I really believe this is a moment when we have to, as pro-democracy, whether we call ourselves Democrats or independents, I'm a nonpartisan voter. I've been friggin' cheerleader for the Democrats up until this administration, because I just can't stand the spinelessness. But we need to, those of us on the pro-democracy side, we really need to hijack the Democratic Party and whip them into action. We have to do
November 22nd, remove the regime. You had started talking about some of the events and things which are leading up to it this week. Let's talk more in earnest. Go ahead. I stepped on you before. Tell me more about remove the regime. You're
good. You're good. No, we're going to kick off. Oh my goodness. What is today? Tuesday, 2 days from now. I'm so excited. First of all, we have this incredible team behind the scenes making this happen, from Flair, from Remember Your Oath, from American Opposition, 5051 DC. I'm going to get in trouble because I'm not going to be able to name all of our partners, but we have such an incredible grassroots, truly grassroots, no national indivisible or anything like that backing us. We are going to start off on Thursday morning, 10 a.m. kickoff rally from Flair headquarters outside of Union Station. And then we are going to march in what, like I said, what we expect to be record-breaking numbers to Congress. Guides will divide us into groups. We will go organized into the different office buildings, Cannon, Russell, Longworth, Rayburn, and we will deliver our very unambiguous demands for impeachment and removal. Then on Friday, we are going to have a veterans rally hosted by Jolly Good Ginger of Remember Your Oath, with a ton of incredible veterans, several of them candidates, all who are pro-impeachment, all who are saying, listen, buddies, if you don't do your job right now, we're coming for your job. And we are going to file impeachment on day one when we get sworn in and take that oath.
I'm curious about the type of responses you might have received from both Democratic and Republican members of Congress right now. I know that spinelessness is not just limited to the Democrats. I know that cowardice is something which has been associated with Congress for quite some time. And I know that members of Congress will run and avoid the public spectacle. They will avoid the town halls. They will avoid the questions from media. My question to you is, since they know that this is coming, how do you know that they will be there and not running home to their home districts?
They might not be there. And, you know, we've actually done this before. We almost broke a record back in September. So we are veterans at this point. It actually doesn't matter if they're there. They're going to hear about it. We're going to put it all over social media. They won't be able to avoid it, whether they're there or not. We're going to get our message across, and we're going to get our message to them and the media, and with your help, the world. And that's what we're doing on Saturday, November 22nd. We need the masses, especially, my friends, if you are in the DC region, if you are in Baltimore, Philly, Richmond, anywhere within driving distance of DC, please spread the word. We're going to converge peacefully on DC. We have a rally at an iconic location at the Lincoln Memorial at noon on Saturday, headlined by the Dropkick Murphys. They're coming in from their European tour straight to us for this rally. Another incredible artist, Earth to Eve, is performing. We've got speeches from Harry Dunn, Michael Fanone, myself, Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, the candidate who was under federal indictment for her activism in Chicago, John Pavlovitz, Cliff Cash, who's my friend, comedian who's been organizing with me, a number of us giving a rousing rally that we hope reverberates across the whole world with your help. If we can converge the masses in DC on Saturday, we want to wake up the next day and be having a different conversation about what needs to be done.
You put the all call out for people to come to Washington, D.C., but we sold the QR code, but I know that there are links that you can give out as well for people who want to be actively involved beyond the event, inclusive of the event, but want to stay engaged and stay part of this movement. How can they go about doing that?
Yeah, they can do that at, well, you have removetheregime.com up on the website. If you want to support us financially, that would be amazing. This is a very, very heavy lift. Just before I got on this show, I'm paying like, $10,000 invoices off to get this done. So it's a very, very expensive. Not one of us is making a dime. Everybody is donating our time and blood, sweat, and tears to pull this off. So you can help us there. Also, you can go to removalcoalition.org, which is the organization I founded to bring together these grassroots orgs that are committed to impeachment and removal. My founding organization is 14th Now, which I started back in January. And you can that links from the Removal Coalition website. And if you want to sign up for our list, you can do that there. Follow my work at removetheregime.com, Removal Coalition on Instagram and Blue Sky, and my show Lights On, where you will always get news of what we have going on.
Jessica, I have a bit of breaking news. I just want to let the audience know, if they don't know, that the Epstein vote has passed almost unanimously in the House.
Wow.
Now, do you interpret that in any way, that it was on almost unanimous as opposed to along party lines? You said earlier that this would be something which is helpful in your endeavors, but do you take anything away from the nature of the vote, how it happened?
I'm telling you, we've been looking for that line for so long that people are not willing to cross. And I know one thing after another has happened in the Donald Trump sphere where we have thought this is it. People will not be able to stand behind this. And I mean, we're witnessing history right now. We're seeing a moment where they absolutely cannot, with it looks like one exception, find themselves tied to covering up what are the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein and, my God, like very, very likely Donald Trump. So this is historic. I think we have to seize on this momentum and energy. We cannot let it be normalized that we have this man who is an adjudicated sexual predator, who is clearly someone who was Epstein's best friend, a convicted felon. We can no longer allow that to be normalized, that this man is running our country and supposedly the leader of the free world.
I agree with everything you said, but I also know that this is a patriarchal society. I wonder, as far as your support, your groundswell of support, the people who you've heard from most as you get ready to go to Washington, D.C. at the end of this week, are you hearing more from women than men, or is it mostly men? Give me a sense of the support and what they're saying to you.
You know what I love about our coalition, Mo? It is so diverse. It is men, it is women, it is LGBTQ, it is straight, it is old, it is young, it is all across the spectrum, the support that we have. And I just feel like, I'm a woman, and I know there are certain of us in this that feel like it is the female energy that has to lead us out of this. That said, we have some extraordinary male allies in this fight. So I really feel like it's a broad coalition, and women are being vindicated. I will tell you that.
Jessica Denson, before I let you go, I want you to see, and I want everyone to see, the finalization of this vote itself. And then before I let you go, I want you one more time to let everyone know the information of how they can get involved, where they can get involved, and more. Can you do that for me?
Sure, will do. Of course.
All right, go ahead, Tony.
On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed And without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
There you have it. Do we know, Kim? Let me bring you in. Kim, do we know who was the one nay vote?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
Technically, 1 no vote, 5 didn't vote.
Abstentions.
So 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans didn't vote.
Okay, but I want to know who that nay was. I want to know who's going to be in that fecal storm for the rest of the day. I wouldn't be surprised if it were Speaker Johnson.
It actually was not. The person who was the lone nay vote was Congressman Clay Higgins of Louisiana, who was very much behind President Trump. He was the sole House member to vote against this measure. So that's Clay Higgins of Louisiana.
Color me unsurprised.
Who is apparently okay with the harm of children.
Yeah,
how we look at that.
It could not be any easier for you. You can be late to this party, but you still got to show up to the party. I don't get it. But, you know, Jessica, I don't want to step on our last moments of our conversation. If you could, please, again, let everyone know how they can be part of this movement.
What a moment to witness with you. I mean, that was incredible. That was truly incredible. They can go to removetheregime.com. Let's put the nail in this coffin, proverbially, of course, and get this done. Removetheregime.com. All the details are there. Please, my friends, this is your chance to take your place in history, to reclaim your power, to reject these false narratives that we don't have agency to control the levers of government that are given to us to control. Show up with us on November 22nd. This is going to be a moment that, with your help, changes the course of the future of the free world. So we're looking forward. I'm so excited. I'm so proud of everybody that's poured their heart and soul into this. And we're gonna kick this off in 2 days from now.
Jessica Denson, founder of the Removal Coalition. I salute you and all that you are attempting to do. I wish you nothing but success. And you know, you're going to have to come back on the Mark Thompson show afterward and let us know how everything turned out.
I will. Nice to meet you, Mo Kelly. I'll have to meet you again too.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can do it in person. Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
The Mark Thompson Show.
And we have plenty to talk about given that vote with David Cay Johnston, who's going to join us at the top of the hour. But Kim, I want to talk to you right now about what we witnessed. And let me see if you agree with this. I think that despite all the criminal cases previously to Donald Trump, then candidate Donald Trump, I believe he is more vulnerable right now, not necessarily in a criminal sense, but in a Trump administration and legacy sense. I think he's more vulnerable right now than ever before. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I don't know. We talked earlier in the show about the possibility of him having scrubbed the documents, so whatever is going to be released is going to be okay now because his name, won't be implicated in anything wrong. His name might be in there, right? But we're not going to see what we might have seen. What I wonder, Mo, is if Trump had not given his stamp of go ahead and let's release the files moment, his 180, as you called it, then I wonder if we would have seen this type of vote today. Would all of his allies have voted against it? Is it only because he said, all right, let's release the files that we got only one dissent?
I think it's the chicken and egg situation. We won't know exactly who pushed whom. In other words, did the Republicans go to Trump and say, you know what, we can't hold this dam back any longer?
Sure.
And you may want to get out in front of this.
Yeah.
And at least seem as if you're on board. That's a possibility, not necessarily a probability, but a possibility, because I don't believe there's any reason for Donald Trump to think that the complete release of the Epstein Files in any form or fashion helps him. It only harms him. Now, he can try to quote unquote scrub it, but as I said before, there are some other reference points. It's almost like when there's an email being sent, there's a to and from. So we don't necessarily need to worry about whether all the emails are in there because we know the estate has the emails. We don't necessarily need to worry about the Trump administration trying to anesthetize the criminal documents, because we know the lawyers and victims now have also been released from the responsibility of not saying anything, not sharing anything, and they can also share their court records as well, and transcripts. So for me, I'm more encouraged by the fact that there's some redundancy here that Trump cannot control. That makes me feel a little bit more optimistic.
It won't surprise me, given the quick nature, the quick turnaround of Trump saying, you need to investigate the Democrats that were buddies with Epstein right now. And then Pam Bondi turning around saying, okay, let's open investigations into the Democrats, right? It wouldn't surprise me if they would, because they did that, then there will be some statement saying, though we plan to release the Epstein files, we can't do it right now because they're now closed due to the ongoing investigations, blah, 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 blah. Similarly, someone in the chat earlier said, similarly to how he was going to release his taxes, right? We're gonna release the taxes, and that never came out. I mean, it did kind of in the Wall Street Journal, but not officially.
The only difference is, if we want to compare it to taxes, there wasn't this groundswell of support nationally demanding the release of his taxes. And I don't know if the delay option is a viable option anymore. It's passed the House, it's going to pass the Senate, Donald Trump is going to sign it. And I know there's some legal wrangling going on if it's if it's an ongoing investigation, whether you can release certain documents or all documents. And yeah, there's some gamesmanship going on here. We don't know how it's going to play out, but I don't believe that Trump is going to be able to get through this unscathed. I think he's going to have to take a major hit on this, if only because and I look at this from an email standpoint. There's going to be too many questions that he will not be able to have answers to. And he's already had minimal support from non-Republicans. I think this is indicative of crumbling support with Republicans. There's going to be one revelation which will not be something that he'll be able to explain away, probably more than one. I don't know how he gets out of this, and I know he has a plan to get out of it. I don't know if he can miss all the arrows headed his way.
I don't think he can. I mean, look at the stress and pressure it's causing already. He's always angry, but even more angry with the last reporter that asked about something Epstein related. He said, quiet piggy, right? And now today he lashed out at an ABC reporter as well. CC Ryder puts in 10. Thank you, CC Ryder. She says, I suspect even if Democrats take back the House and conduct an investigation into the Epstein Files scrubbing cover-up, all subpoenas to the DOJ FBI will be ignored and not enforced, and we might need to wait until 2029.
I don't disagree. In fact, let's go to the Quiet Piggy video just as a reference point, just in case you haven't seen it. If anything, to your point, Kim, it says that he may have a plan to get out of this, but he is not comfortable with where he is regarding the Epstein files. Whether they're scrubbing them or not, Donald Trump is not acting as if he is at a place where he's confident that he will be exonerated in at least the court of public opinion regarding his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Let me just put myself into this, not directly, but let me just use myself as an example. If someone came out to me and said, Mo, we're going to bring out everything that you did in your 20s, I can't possibly remember all the things which might be out there, which may put me in an embarrassing light or might be put me in a compromised position. And if I'm Donald Trump, knowing all the dirt that I've done, all the things questionable which I've done, all the rooms that I've been in, all the women/girls I may have been with, I would not be confident that every stone has been overturned to make sure that I have been protected from any type of exposure. I would not be confident in that. He's not comfortable with all this being released.
As someone said, he's like a cornered rat. Depressed Canadian with 20, thank you very much. Trump flipping on releasing the files was a big red flag, and telegraphing the files have been tampered with. That, yeah, the flip shows that we're not going to see what we expect that we would see an undoctored Epstein file, right? Yeah.
Kim, there is so much to discuss, and I don't know if there's anyone better to discuss it with than a regular guest on the Mark Thompson Show, David Cay Johnston, who is, I would say, a little bit cynical, as I am, at the prospect of what the Trump administration might be holding back or be able to hold back in this moment. So let's find out what he means. David Cay Johnston, welcome back to the Mark Thompson Show. How are you this afternoon?
Good to be with you again. So it's hard to not be cynical right now. I'm generally not cynical, but it is difficult in current conditions not to be.
You had a piece which you just released saying, in short, I'm paraphrasing, you'll tell us more specifically, that the Trump administration may be able to avoid the worst of the Epstein revelations. What do you mean by that?
Well, there are two ways they can do this. My column was about one of them, that DC report. Federal law makes it contraband to even look at a picture of an adult having sex with a minor. And so it's possible that the Justice Department may argue we have either destroyed or we cannot turn over various images, both video and stills, because of this law, which I quote in the piece with a link. You can go read it. And the important issue here is they're going to try to find ways to minimize what gets released. The other option for this, and it's not inconsistent with it, is to say, well, we can't release this because the law says that so long as there's an active criminal investigation underway, we don't have to produce any of this evidence. That's why Trump has called for investigating Bill Clinton and Lawrence Summers, the former president of Harvard and former Treasury Secretary. And there is reason to think that there's stuff there based on what Larry Summers just did. Larry just withdrew basically from public life and said he's embarrassed. If Larry Summers laid a hand on any underage girl who's, although the law is 18, let's grant a little slack, somebody can lie or appear to be older, 16 or younger, he should be absolutely ruined in public life forever and have no forgiveness about this, especially because he could have, if that's the case, come forward a long time ago and said, do you realize what they're doing at the Epstein properties? Mm-hmm. Now, we don't know that. I want to be very clear. It could be that he just knows there's other things that will be embarrassing, that none of which are illegal or dubious. But the pressure is on for Trump, and if they release everything that the witnesses have said exists, the victims say exists, I don't see any way out for Trump. And if they think, well, we'll just say that there are no photographs or videotapes of grown men engaged in sex acts with 12, 13, 14-year-old girls, the problem with that is that the litigants' lawyers have seen the evidence. Yep. They will know if they're lying. And so will the young women, some of whom have testified under oath that, yes, I was photographed or videotaped while I was being raped. And that's, by the way, the important word to use here. I was floored that the New York Times referred to Jeffrey Epstein either yesterday or the day before as a disgraced financier. No, he is a convicted child rapist. Let's not sugarcoat this in any way. There's no indication he's any kind of expert on finance. The notion that he is an expert, I'm very confident, will be shown by a complete disclosure of the records to be nonsense. He was running an extortion racket. He would get men in compromising positions, and maybe some women, for all we know. But he'd get men in compromising positions, have evidence of them, and then suddenly some of these people would be turning over to him tens of millions, and in one case, hundreds of millions of dollars, plus the most expensive house in Manhattan. And, think about that. if you had $20 billion and could go to jail for the rest of your life, how much would you pay Jeffrey Epstein to protect you?
Professor Johnston, I always wonder, and you kind of touched upon this, we have and I referred to this earlier in the show before you came on, that we have kind of a backup or a backstop to the lies or any type of changes by the Trump administration because of the lawyers and also the victims. Could you foresee a situation where, independent of what the government releases, we would have then the lawyers coming forward with very graphic depictions of what is in their possession?
Typically, in a case as sprawling and massive as this, there will be documents in other places. There will be third parties and maybe fourth and fifth parties who have various pieces of the pie. And so I won't be the least bit surprised if, for example, we find out that one of the young women snatched a CD-ROM, because this was back in the era of CD-ROMs, and has a copy of it, and that there will be impeachment of people who claim, oh, no, that's everything. The Justice Department is going to have a very tough needle to thread if they aren't honest about what is there and what is not. And the estate has the right of the return of the evidence taken when the FBI executed search warrants at the 5 properties owned by Jeffrey Epstein, where FBI agents went. When you conduct such a raid or execution of a search warrant, you have to give the party a inventory of what you took. And it has to be a complete enough inventory that a reasonable person could figure out what it is. Now, they certainly could say, one box containing 142 sleeved CD-ROMs. But if they want to withhold a particular picture and say, this is contraband, we can't give it to you, I would argue that I'm sorry, members of Congress are not the prurient interests we're worried about protecting here from child pornography. They're no different than the detectives and prosecutors who, in order to do their jobs, would have to look at the images. You can't prosecute someone if you haven't looked at the image, if you're going to accuse them of having contraband of adults and children in sex acts. Secondly, for the moment, Donald Trump has a personal law firm called the U.S. Department of Justice.
Yes.
If we get out of this, and that's still an if, but if we get out of this and restore our democracy, that will not always be true. And so people like Pam Bondi, who are feeling full of themselves right now, and Kash Patel, they should be thinking about the future if things don't work out just the way they want, because they'll be very vulnerable. We've seen one Navy admiral resign early for what's pretty clearly from other officers who know this person and what they have put out, because he felt the orders to murder people on the boats were illegal. And officers, of course, have no defense by saying I was following orders. I'm sure the Justice Department and lawyers for the military have legal documents saying, oh, no, we can kill these people. Here's why we can kill them. And here's our legal theory. If you think that's a flimsy theory, you think it's about as substantial as wet toilet paper, then don't follow the order and let them fire you or choose to resign as a matter of principle. But don't follow illegal orders. Never follow an illegal order, especially if you're an officer, since you've only taken an oath to the Constitution not to follow the orders of the president. You haven't taken, let me clean that up, I'm sorry. Your oath is only to defend the Constitution. You do not take the oath that grunts and sailors take to also always follow the order of the president.
The only thing I would disagree with you with is, although there may be some legal exposure for folks like Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, if the past is prologue, then we know that President Trump will take care of those people on some level. If he's going to pardon 1,500 January 6th people, he's going to pardon Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, I agree with you about that. I think that's one of the reasons that people like Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are feeling their oaths. Greg Bovino.
Yes.
And Trump almost certainly will issue large pardons, as he's done already. And he's done pardons now for sexual predators, for major money launderers, for drug traffickers. We have to kill people in boats 1,000 miles away from the United States because we think they have drugs on them. But, I'm going to pardon these major drug dealers because this doesn't have anything to do with protecting Americans from fentanyl and other drugs. This is about demonstrating that you are invincible. That's what dictators have to do. I can do anything. Trump says, I have an Article 2 that says I can do anything I want. It says nothing of the kind. But for him to dictate, he has to take that position. He has to take actions that are absolutely illegal and go, try and do something about it. Well, that can happen. But even if he's impeached and there's going to be a conviction, he'll have a window to pardon people.
Yeah. What did you make of the recent Epstein vote in the House? 427 yes, 1 nay, 5 abstentions. Is there any political jeopardy for any of these votes one way or the other?
Yeah, Mo Kelly, I think this is a very good indication that people should pay close attention to. Donald Trump is not strong. He is weak. He is only strong to the extent that we say, I don't care. I'm not going to take the trouble to vote. I'm not going to go demonstrate. Whatever, it's not part of my life. It's irrelevant. That's where he gets his strength. You're seeing the MAGA movement split now. And basically the issue that's splitting them is pedophiles, protecting pedophiles. And after all, it was Donald Trump who said, I'm going to release all the Epstein files, which makes his current position pretty hard for even someone with a limited education and critical thinking skills to square. His argument, it's all a hoax, that doesn't ring, I think, with anybody with half a brain. And his efforts to say, well, let's look at Bill Clinton and Larry Summers. Well, hey, let's go look at Bill Clinton and Larry Summers. I mean, if you're in the Epstein materials and you're an adult and you raped a child, we may not be able to prosecute you, but there's absolutely no reason for you to continue to have a respectable position in American society. Absolutely none. And when Thomas Massey, Republican from Kentucky, who is MAGA but not a Trumper, if that makes sense. It may seem a little hard, but he believes in the arguments of MAGA on economics and immigration, but not Trump. He and Ro Khanna have put together quite a formidable number. And if you're a Republican, the least bit worried in the House of Representatives that you might face a tough election in 26, and particularly a tough election over the Epstein files, once you know that there are 218 votes, a majority by vote of 1, to push the discharge petition to make the files public, the smart move would be to vote to release them. It's not going to hurt you at that point. Whereas staying the other side, that could hurt you.
I know you can't and I can't predict what is going to happen, but if we were to try to look at the extremes of what could happen, what could this Epstein revelation lead to? Are we talking about a time where this president could actually be impeached or removed, or no?
Well, he certainly, I would be absolutely floored if he were impeached by the current Congress, given that the Democrats are the minority. I wouldn't exclude the possibility of it, though. We don't know how bad this will get and what will be out there. But if we get a significant Democratic majority in the House, and we've had elections in the last 25 years with a 40-vote swing in the House from one party to the other. I would expect the Democrats would go to work on impeaching Trump and Bondi and others. Then the question is the Senate and what would happen in the Senate. And the Senate's a much more stable body, 6-year terms, only a third are up every 2 years. So the volume of outcome and the volume of what are interpreted to be anti-Trump votes in 2026 would have a major impact on how the Senate would act. Right now, there are 54 or 53 Republican senators out of 100, so they have a clear majority, and you need 67 to convict upon impeachment. And by the way, I'm surprised how many people don't know this, but from some other appearances I've made, there is no appeal to the Supreme Court if you're convicted upon impeachment. There is no appeal from impeachment. Just read your Constitution, folks. It says sole power, S-O-L-E. Sole power means no one can question what's been done. And if you are impeached, you are still subject to criminal prosecution. So a lot of things are going to happen, but I think the next big thing to look for is, do they release all of the files? And I'll be floored if they do that. I'll be very surprised if they're candid about that. And then if they do, it's going to take some time. You're looking at hundreds of thousands of pages of documents. Several journalists, mostly at rather minor places, have been going through the 23,000 pages from the Epstein estate. What we call the Epstein Files are Department of Justice records. But the Epstein estate records that were released, and even there, they found some really interesting things suggesting serious money laundering, corruption, serious other criminal activity. Now, all of it's past what's called the statute of limitations. You can't prosecute for it anymore. The only major crime for which there's no statute of limitations is murder. Yeah. So if you know, grown men are shown in this to have been raping children, they can't be prosecuted today for that. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't know about what's going on. And we also should wake up the public once we get these records to Jeffrey Epstein may be the biggest, the most aggressive man like this, but he is not unique. He is not an anomaly. He's not a unicorn. We know that there's a fair amount of this that goes on in Europe. You may remember a few, maybe 10 years ago now, that the former French foreign minister, big world banking figure, was arrested on a rape charge of a maid in a Manhattan hotel when he was in the US. And his defense was, well, hey, in France, you know, like my friends would pay somebody to pretend they're a maid, or they'd pay the maid to have sex with me. So I just thought this was sort of a routine French elite sex game. And that should tell you a lot about that. Jeffrey Epstein is not some unusual character. He's unusual, but he's not unique.
That actually leads me into my next question, because I wonder whether there would be any type of international repercussions. We had MBS, who is in the White House today. Is there anything which would make President Trump toxic enough where it could, I'll say, impact relationships, at least in the Western world?
Well, if clear evidence is established that some of the boats that we hit with weapons of war and killed everyone were in fact murders, then Trump would be subject to prosecution by the International Court of Justice. Now, we don't recognize that court in the Netherlands, but that's the court that's issued arrest warrants for Bibi Netanyahu for war crimes and for Vladimir Putin. And you won't see Putin go to any country where he's at risk of being arrested. General Pinochet, who led the overthrow of the Allende government in Chile more than 50 years ago, he was subject to arrest, and he was held for a bit because of this. And so there's a distinct possibility Trump could become an international pariah who cannot leave the United States. Gee, what a horrible thing, a fate to have. You can't leave the United States.
Professor Johnston, there are so many aspects.
Just David.
Okay, David. There are so many aspects to this, and I'm not sure how desperate this president is. And I don't know what that level of desperation may mean for you and me. You mentioned, like, for example, Venezuela. I don't know if it's only Venezuela. It could be any number of issues going on in and around the world that Trump may use to deflect or distract from what's going on in the Epstein files. How concerned should we be as citizens, as lay people, about the level of desperation of Donald Trump?
Oh, Donald, whom I've known and covered for 37 years, and I've spent many, many, many hours with, he is in a panic mode. That's, I think, eminently clear. And combine that with clear cognitive decline that we're seeing going on, as you can evidence from not just his word salad, which has been around a while, but his inability to walk a straight line. which is a significant sign, and we're not talking about minor variations, we're talking about zigzag patterns when he walks. All of those say that Donald's in an absolute panic. He's been posting things on Truth Social that actually hurt him, where he claims, for example, he just claimed the other day that something was rigged, and it was during his administration that rigging would have occurred. He's not thinking clearly enough to separate his 4 years from the rest of the time. We now have an enormous flotilla of Navy and Marine combatants off the coast of Venezuela. They're in international waters, to be sure. Yeah. The Gerald R. Ford, the world's biggest warship, the new class of aircraft carriers, has been brought back from the Mediterranean, and it's, I believe, now arrived in that area. We have military aircraft that can launch fighter planes, helicopters, and landing craft if they want to invade Venezuela. And what a good way to deflect American attention, to pull out old American, let's go invade somebody in Latin America as a trick to do this. Mm-hmm. Without any authorization, by the way. Only under our Constitution, Congress has the sole power to declare war. Presidents can respond to threats. I don't see a shred of evidence, not a scintilla of evidence, that there is a military threat to us from Venezuela. But that doesn't mean Trump won't claim there is. And then we would find out very quickly if Congress has become an irrelevancy. Is it the Duma of America? The Duma is the, make it appear you have a parliament in Russia that just does what the dictator says to do, with minor exceptions to prove that they don't always do what the dictator wants. Mm-hmm. But I'd be very, very concerned that we're going to have American boys, and with Pete Hegseth, they're going to be all boys, not any women, being sent into combat in Venezuela, which, don't forget, Venezuela has the world's largest proven oil reserves. OPEC is Venezuela is part of OPEC. Venezuela should be a wealthy country. It's not. Which tells you how corrupt it is. But there's no grounds to invade, and there's no significant evidence, by the way, of drug trafficking from Venezuela. That's not where the drugs are coming from, according to the government's own data during the first and second Trump administration, as well as every other administration. Venezuela is just not a major player here.
Mm-hmm. I know your time with us is limited, David. I want to make sure that we respect that. I want to end our conversation with this question. We know that there have been names like Elon Musk and also, I think, Peter Thiel, correct me if I'm wrong, others who have been connected, and Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett have been connected on some level as far as communication with Jeffrey Epstein. Are we getting ready to have our minds blown with the number of sitting members of Congress who might have been connected to him on some level?
Well, Kelly, that's a really good question that has not been asked very much. So I'm glad you brought that up. First important thing to recognize is that extortionists don't compromise everybody. They want to show that they are invincible, like dictators. They want to show they're very closely connected. You mess with me, you might have to mess with the president of the United States. So there are a lot of people who Epstein has inserted himself into their lives in some ways, or drawn them into him in some way, who haven't done anything wrong at all. And we have to be very careful to draw that distinction. And that distinction you're not going to see drawn very well by Fox and the New York Post and Breitbart and other quote unquote news organizations that are really propaganda outlets and professional liars. That said, there's every reason to think that a number of people are going to be really damaged, including potentially some members of Congress, by what's in the Justice Department's Epstein Files. And there's going to be so many threads to this, people are going to have a hard time following them. Journalists are going to have a hard time following them because there are so many threads. This is like a flood. You know, you can look at the river and suddenly the river breaks the banks and it's 5 miles wide, and it's very hard to see all of that in context. And that's exactly what we should expect here. And it will take a little bit of time to suss things out, even if they were to make an unbridled and full release. And by the way, I wouldn't discount one other possibility. Somebody who's in the government may have surreptitiously copied some documents out of concern about the security of those records. And so they could pop up. So withholding records by claiming they don't exist, or destroying records, among other things on the grounds that it's contraband, could be a very risky strategy for the Trump administration, not legally because they're in control, but politically. I mean, just imagine the headlines if it comes out that they said that, those images were all destroyed during the Joe Biden administration. That's why we don't have, we think there are some images of improprieties, but they were destroyed during the Biden administration. And then somebody puts out, no, they were not. That would be politically pretty devastating. Perhaps not with the most severe MAGA people, not with people like Megyn Kelly, the mother of a 14-year-old girl who thinks it's okay for grown men to have sex with 15-year-old girls. She thinks they're legal, as she put it. She called them barely legal. Not in any state in the country is a 15-year-old legal for a grown adult to have sex. So there are a lot of things that are going to explode very soon, and it's going to be difficult for people to follow them. Pay close attention to what hasn't been released. Be careful to distinguish between people who were simply around Jeffrey Epstein or photographed with him and people who were seriously involved with him, like Donald, who was on his plane, the Lolita Express, at least 7 times, and who there is sworn testimony from young women who say, I was raped by Donald Trump. One of them, in fact, has testified under oath that she didn't want to be raped. And Trump said to her, she claims, hey, stop complaining. You should be proud that Donald Trump is taking your virginity, not some incompetent 14-year-old boy. That knowing Donald, that sounds like Donald to me. It fits, but you also have to be very careful about what sounds right and what actually is right. But
Before
a lot's about to come out, and we're going to be drenched in this stuff. Assuming there is some substantial amount of release. And maybe there won't be. Maybe they'll say we can't do it because it's contraband and we're investigating Bill Clinton.
As I let you go, David Cay Johnston, I enjoy my conversation with you. I didn't expect to be able to have the opportunity to speak with you today. I wonder, I'm almost 56, so I don't have the firsthand memories of Watergate. Watergate is always that, that point of comparison as far as the biggest scandal in presidential history. And I know MAGA is going to say no matter what is released, it's a nothing burger. But you as a student of history, could we be on the verge of the greatest political scandal? And I know I'm on the verge of hyperbole ever.
I don't think you're on the verge of hyperbole at all. I mean, I was around during Watergate. Already when Watergate happened, I was on the verge of winning my first National Investigative Reporting Award. And I actually, despite being in Lansing, Michigan for most of it, managed to get a piece of the 2 pieces of that story that made national headlines. This is a much bigger scandal than Watergate. This is much more important than Watergate. Richard Nixon was a man who was corrupted by his own ego, as is Donald Trump. But Richard Nixon, at the end of the day, was a patriot in that he resigned rather than put the country through the impeachment. He had served honorably as a military officer in the Navy in World War II. He was an intellectual. You can hate Richard Nixon or love Richard Nixon, but it's undeniable the man was an actual intellectual. He wrote serious books on serious topics, and he wrote his own books. And he, basically he sought to undermine and subvert the Constitution so he could retain his power. Donald Trump is something entirely different here. He does not believe in the balance of power in the Constitution between the Congress, the courts, and the president. He is completely and utterly corrupt, not just corrupt about doing things to maintain his position in the White House. He's been entirely corrupt his entire life. He lies, he steals, he cheats, he revels in doing so. And he has no regard for anyone. He just called yet another woman, in this case, a reporter for Bloomberg, flying with him on Air Force One, a piggy. Quiet, piggy. Quiet, piggy. He has no respect for anyone. And then he literally physically embraces the murderous dictator from Saudi Arabia, who our government says ordered the murder and cutting up into pieces of the Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the Turkish, not embassy, but consulate of the Saudi government. And the denial by MBS, I don't know anything about this, just like Donald. Well, gee, it was your closest security people who did this. You mean your own security people who you trust your life to go off and kill people you don't know about? I mean, it's just not credible at any level. So this is a vastly bigger scandal. The difference we have, however, is during Watergate, we had a lot of people who had lived through the Depression and World War II. They had a much deeper understanding of government, the limits of government, how government can be abusive, and the importance of government to your economic welfare and your liberties. Also, we had institutions that are gone now. We had unions, we had social justice movements, which they've just shriveled down to virtual insignificance. And Watergate played out over a period of 2 years. Took a long time for things to get attention. And it wasn't just, by the way, the Washington Post. The LA Times was often ahead of the Washington Post. Some of the stories people remember the Post more for actually appeared in the LA Times hours earlier and were essentially matched and rewritten by the Post. The New York Times covered itself in a lot of glory during this, and but it took 2 years for Nixon to finally fall apart. And that included when his vice president confessed to being a felon and had to be replaced.
Yeah.
So this has moved actually a little quicker in the second Trump term. How quickly it's going to move going forward, I don't know. But if they don't release substantial documents and there's a lot of withholding it, that'll be the big story. Why are you not doing that? If they do release them, it's going to be a flood of trying to go through this. And it's going to require a lot of different people to look at this in different places and to draw those important distinctions between Jeffrey Epstein wanted to appear to be powerful because he stood next to somebody in a photograph, and these are the people that I compromised and got involved in child rape and then extorted. But Larry Summers has withdrawn, that King Charles has thrown his brother out of the royal family. Those scream, this is not a hoax. This is a very serious matter.
David Cay Johnston, Pulitzer Prize winning investigative journalist. You can check out his latest piece, the DC Report, What May Be Held Back from the Epstein Files. It is always an honor and privilege to speak to you, David Cay Johnston. I hope to do it again.
Thank you. See you next week, or see Mark next week. Take care.
Absolutely.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I got to tell you, I wasn't expecting to sit in for Mark today, but I am overjoyed at the opportunity to speak to people like Jessica Denson and also David Cay Johnston, because the quality of the conversations, the caliber of their intellect, and also their knowledge cannot be beat. And also we'll be speaking with Jefferson Graham on this Tech Tuesday in just a moment. And Kim, I got to come back to you. You may have interpreted that conversation differently or got something out of it that I did not get from David Cay Johnston. What was your takeaway?
I think he's so knowledgeable. What I thought was interesting at the end there was him talking about making the juxtaposition between the quote Democrat hoax and the serious things that have happened with folks stepping away from, public life, being excommunicated from the royal family, that doesn't bespeak a hoax. And that is something I haven't heard articulated before. I mean, I knew that those things had happened, but connecting them to the Trump's, hoax mantra, I think is very telling.
Yeah, and I was trying to get to that with David Cay Johnston as far as what would that mean as far as world leaders, how they would respond to Trump if he is further, when I say not indicted, but found to be involved on some level, hypothetically, with Jeffrey Epstein, what that might mean for U.S. UK relationship, what that may mean with our relationship with the EU, because the rest of the world is taking it seriously,
Right.
and they are trying to push as many people away who are connected to it, and it might also include our president. I don't know.
I don't know, because it seems like right now, where when he goes places, people are kind of throwing themselves at him, trying to make these trade deals and whatever else. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's kind of the way it seems on the international stage, where he's getting a lot of attention. Please keep supporting Ukraine. Please, the EU flocking to the White House as he met with the Ukrainian leader. So it seems like there's so much to need to get stuff from him in his current position that people might be willing to ignore the ugliness of what happened there. I don't know if it will make him an international pariah.
Yeah, we can only hope, but it's unlikely that's going to happen. I agree with you. It's unlikely, and the point I was trying to make with David Cay Johnston is that we don't know what this is going to ultimately turn into. We know what the response is going to be from Donald Trump and Republicans. It's fake. It's a hoax. It's a nothing burger. No matter what comes out, that's going to be the response. But I don't know if that's going to be the response from Congress. I don't know if that's going to be the response from the general public. And it could be that one email, that one picture, if it's available and legal to be shown, it could be that one piece of evidence or documentation which changes the complete perception of this. And it doesn't take a lot. And you're talking about a tranche of tens of thousands of documents. There's no telling what is going to be known. And when someone tells you it's a hoax in advance, or it's a nothing burger in advance, there's something there, because there's no way anyone can allege they know with any degree of certainty what is in those documents, and to be able to assess them or characterize them as a nothing burger or a hoax should tell you they're concerned with good reason.
I also thought it was interesting that David Cay Johnston says there may be the Trump administration, or whoever, the DOJ, whoever releases the Epstein files, may be held to account by the possibility that there are pieces of all of this evidence in other hands.
Yes.
And so if not everything is released, someone could come forward and say, well, what about this? Why didn't you release this? Right. So that gives me a little bit of hope.
Yeah, I'm optimistic, but I'm also cynical, because there have been plenty of things over the past 10 years related to Donald Trump, which have been released, which have been factual, which have been actual, which have not been a hoax, which have been authoritatively and authenticated, if you will, and it's been denied and dismissed, and people sometimes just overlook it because, yes, I know we are inundated and overwhelmed with so much information on a day-to-day basis. It makes it really hard to keep up with all of it, to follow all the threads, as David said, and also have a true understanding of level of involvement. And people always want to send out the picture, real or AI, of Jeffrey Epstein and so-and-so. And there's a real point to be made that just because you are in a picture with someone, it does not mean that you're actually associated or involved with that person. Powerful people know powerful people. Famous people take pictures with famous people. I've taken all sorts of pictures with famous people. I couldn't tell you what goes on in their bedroom. I can't tell you what goes on in their boardroom, or the business interests, or the contracts they're involved in. Like, I've taken a picture with Tucker Carlson. It doesn't mean I endorse anything that Tucker Carlson does. I have all sorts of people. I have a picture with Bill Cosby. I can't tell you that I knew what was going on in his bedroom or what he was doing with women. So it's a great point. We cannot necessarily assume association or corrupt intent just by the mere presence.
True, but I think in Trump and Epstein's case, we know that they're best friends. They were best friends, and it wasn't just a picture, right? It wasn't just a one time, I met you at a party once. They were not acquaintances. They were besties. Yeah.
Well, maybe We'll find out more. Go ahead, Kim. You were going to.
CC pops in. A cornered rat fights back twice as hard. We'll all see Trump flex when he feels incoming. Global leaders are probably a bit panicked as Trump unravels over the Epstein-related material.
And Kim, before we get to Jefferson Graham, who's getting ready to join us, let's go over some of the folks who are continuing to support the program and what they feel about this moment.
Yeah, we've got Richard Delamater with a couple. Says Mo, the new AI Epstein Files. Has the ink dried yet? Yeah, the AI Epstein Files, right? Last Angry Manny, and thank you, Richard Delamater. Last Angry Manny with a couple. Kim, you want on the record how everyone voted. When I say it, that was from when I said, why doesn't Trump just release the records right now? Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Last Angry Manny. Depressed Canadian with the 20. Trump flipping on the releasing of the files is a big red flag, and telegraphing the files have been tampered with. So thank you for all the contributions to the Mark Thompson Show. We cannot do this show without you. Thank you for keeping us going. You can find us here on YouTube with the super chats and the super stickers. And you can also find us at themarkthompsonshow.com, where the Patreon and the PayPal links live. And please don't forget Mark's merch, getmarkmerch.com. And while we're talking about all of this, I should tell you that we're having and I'd love to extend an invitation to you, Mo Kelly. We're having the Mark Thompson Show Holiday Hoedown. It's going to be really good. It is an event coming up, I believe, December 1st, and you can lock in your spot right now. Tony trying to get the information up on the screen for you, but it's exciting. It's something we have coming up, and it's going to be a place to get together to experience holiday camaraderie of the Mark Thompson Show. It is on December 1st at 6 p.m. It is the Holiday Hoedown Throwdown for the Mark Thompson Show. It's going to be 2 hours long. It'll be a $50 donation via the PayPal link. And when you do that to the Mark Thompson Show, please note that it is for the Holiday Hoedown. HH is all you have to say. And then send us an email to confirm your spot at mtsmeetup@gmail.com, mtsmeetup@gmail.com. And we hope to see you at the Holiday Hoedown Throwdown Party. It's going to be super fun. Mark always lines up special guests to join us. We'll talk politics. We'll just go around and chit chat with everybody. So it's really, those events are really fun. So I do hope you're able to join us at the Holiday Hoedown Throwdown.
Quick question. Now, do I wear like a 10-gallon hat and some cowboy boots? I mean, I know how to square dance and line dance.
That's what I said. I think something a little festive is all you need.
Okay.
You can ditch the boots and the hat. We're all right.
All right. I think you'll find me on December 1st at the Holiday Hoedown. I'm pretty confident I'll be there.
I wanted to mention, I don't know if we're going to get a whole newscast in today, but I did want to mention another piece of breaking news before we get to Jefferson Graham, and that is that a federal judge is ruling against the new congressional maps in Texas for the 2026 midterm elections. All this business in California to fight against Texas, and a judge says, well, maybe Texas can't do this after all. This judge is directing the state of Texas to revert back to its previous congressional districts. It is, as they say, a setback for the state and Republicans there after the big fight to revise the district maps. Remember when the Democrats checked out and left? And big to do. So we'll see how this plays out. I'm sure it's not the end of the legal road, but at this point, Texas is running into some problems with just okaying doing new district maps. The judge says, nope, we don't want that. Can't do it.
The plot continues to thicken, and we will continue to watch that story. Right now, let's talk a little bit of tech.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On this Tech Tuesday with Jefferson Graham. Jefferson, it's great to talk to you again. I didn't know I would be talking to you again, but I'm glad that I am.
You just found out this morning, right?
No, I found out like 15 minutes ago.
15 minutes ago.
Not long ago. Mark, unfortunately, could not be here, but I'm glad at the opportunity to talk all things tech with you once again. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. It's good to see you again. I have to send my regrets to the hoedown. I will be in Japan on that day. But if you want to move it to the day before, I'll still be here.
Well, that's going to be up to Kim and Mark. I have no power in that regard.
Okay. I've got a laundry list of things here for you. I want to start with last week we were talking about cutting the cord. We were talking about YouTube streaming TV as sort of the alternative to cable. They ended up making their deal with Disney. And the two things that really stuck out at me. First of all, I wasn't aware of this, but if you look at the number one cable, the top 5 cable operators, YouTube is now number 4, even though it's not a cable operator, but pay TV. It's it's Charter and it's Comcast and it's believe it or not, YouTube is right up there. So it's really grown fast from when I was paying $35 a month for it, and it's now $85 a month. The fight with Disney was that they have to pay these humongous fees for ESPN.
Yes,
and other
those
sporting
carriage
networks, right? Carriage fees. So they wanted the right to be able to offer a deal to subscribers, which would be like somebody like me, which was that you could get all the stuff without the sports package and not have to pay the sports tax, which I think is brilliant. I doubt that I still would get YouTube TV because I'm guessing it'd be $50 instead of $85. But I think that's great for consumers because there are people who just do not want to pay for the sports.
It's interesting. I was the exact opposite. The reason why I took so long to cut the cord, I had DirecTV, full disclosure, was that I wanted to be able to get live sports. Now, when I was cutting the cord, it was in the infancy of this evolution of linear television media. And so I had myself going to bars just to watch the Laker game, for example. And then when I have Sling now, when you had Sling and others starting to get the ESPNs and the Fox Sports, it made it very easy for me to cut the cord. But we've seen in the intervening years that ESPN as a cable channel is very expensive and is not the draw that it once was. It's expensive for the provider, which is passed on to the subscriber, but it doesn't have the eyeballs that it used to. And I wonder where this industry is going to go big picture when it comes to live sports. I don't know that ESPN is going to be the leader in 10 or 15 years, given what we've seen lately.
No, it can't be. NFL.com, MLB.com, the people with the rights, they're going to be the leader. Sunday Ticket, where it lets you see all the football games, that's like $285 a season.
Woo.
Right? But how much would it cost you to go to the bar every Sunday?
Right. Well, if you take out the cost of my drinks, free.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people, it's not just me, a lot of people will do that because they can go to a bar and see every football game and not pay that exorbitant tax, if you will, on watching Sunday Ticket or the NFL Red Zone, which I enjoy, but it's expensive if you're just going to get it as a standalone option.
They also have big, beautiful TVs, probably bigger than you own, and you get the camaraderie of being with all the people that feel like you and are rooting for the same team that you're rooting. So it's a fun experience. The people that are hurt the most in cutting the cords are the sports fans, because it's so complicated. What do you do? Like, in my research, if you get CBS, NBC, and Fox, right? Those are the 3. You could see all the football games, right?
You can if you know how to do it.
If you know how to do it, yeah.
Let's talk about how to do it.
Well, you get your antenna. You get the antenna. I got some questions last week about this Mohu antenna that I like for $50, and it's just like a piece of paper that you tape to the window, and it gives you a reception, and then it gives you all these other channels as well. So I counted them up there. There's like 60 channels, mostly old reruns. Mostly, where do old TV shows go to die? They go to the digital channels that are being shown through the antenna. If you want to see Cheers, I mean, didn't seem that long ago, but if you want to see shows like Cheers, Ted Danson's second show, Becker, you'll find that there, Wings, things like that. So a lot of rerun channels, and then of course a lot of Westerns. You go even older, and a lot of PBS. So you do get a lot more for your money. It's a one-time charge, $50, and you could watch to your heart's content.
No, but you also get to see the main channels I'm talking about. And if you know, if you have a digital antenna, 2.1, 4.1, 7.1, that's in HD for free. And I was a fool. I had DirecTV and paying for HD when I could have had it for free.
And not only that, you get a better picture quality through the antenna than you do with cable, because you're going direct to the television as opposed to going through this awful cable box that, I don't know about you, but I never wanted. And then you have two remotes instead of one remote. Everything's more complicated, but with the antenna, it's much easier. By the way, I just should mention, Black Friday sales start next week. Actually, the Amazon Black Friday sale starts on Thursday. Now, since we're talking about TVs, I was looking them up this morning, $280 for a 50-inch Samsung television. I mean, that's amazing. And that's before the sale even started. So TVs are going to be heavily discounted. I don't know how much lower they can go, but there are going to be some great TV deals next week.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I think part of the reason why TV have been so discounted is because there are people like me. Even though I have TVs, I watch most of my TV on my computer screen or my tablet or some other device, as opposed to a conventional TV where all my linear TV, I use Sling, as I said, I just put it on my computer. I have a huge monitor and I watch it via the app, as opposed to having the conventional television screen, which is limited in one place. I can take my TV wherever I go. And maybe that is somehow connected to the discounting of physical TVs as we've seen.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
But I'm with you on the hotel room. So when you go to the hotel room, they now want you to sign into your streaming provider, and you're supposed to remember your password before you get there. And and then you just say, forget it, I'll just watch on my computer. I think the reason they're discounted is that people don't want 50-inch TVs. They don't want 32-inch TVs. They want 80, they want 90, they want 100. And that's where the money is. And so they're moving out these old ones that just didn't go anywhere. But with the big ones, I mean, you still walk into Costco, walk into the big box stores, you're looking at $1,000+ for some of those big TVs. And so obviously a lot of people are making money on that.
I'm not as young as I used to be. I know my eyesight.
Really? Because I'm not either.
No, it seems like every single day I'm getting older. I can't stop it.
Yeah, me too.
And I've noticed that my eyesight is not as good as it used to be. You have these 4K TVs. Are we, as the consumer, really getting as much out of these bigger and brighter and clearer TVs? I mean, is there a point where it's not going to make any difference to us as the consumer? We're not going to see the added value?
I think the bigger the better. I bought, what did I get, a 72-inch or something like that a few years ago. And the minute I got home, it was like, why didn't I get an 80? I had room for an 80. I'd like to have 100. I'd like to have as big as possible. One of the great thrills every January is going to it's not called that anymore, the Consumer Electronics Show, now just called CES. And the big thing there is these giant, massive TVs that are just so gorgeous and just knock you out. And one day, maybe I'll have a wall of TVs like they have at the CES, where they put them all together, you know? And yeah, that's my dream.
I like being able to, we mentioned the apps, like I like to be able to cast to any of the TVs where, you know, I don't know exactly what channel it's on in a linear sense, but I can go to the app and just cast it right onto my screen. Do you find yourself doing that?
I don't really need to. So I am very happy with what I've got on the TV, and I don't watch. I pretty much just watch YouTube. So that's pretty much, I like the little clips and the comedy and the music. I watched something on Netflix last week. So I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot in my phone that I need to cast. But certainly at the hotel room, with forgetting the password, that's a great thing. What are you casting?
It could be anything. Like, for example, it could be a YouTube video that I see and I'm walking around the house and I was like, I would rather see this on a larger screen. It could be watching the Mark Thompson show and I'm making breakfast and I may be watching on my desktop computer, and then it's easier to just go ahead and cast it to my screen instead of opening the YouTube app on my TV. I'm lazy like that.
Okay, well, I turn on the TV, I click on the YouTube icon, and there it is. So it's not that difficult for me, but I respect what you're doing. I think that's cool.
Here's something else I would want you to consider. You say you may, or people may go to a hotel room and then they'll sign in. I don't like giving up my password for any reason, and also trying to remember to sign out upon leaving.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And I spoke to a group of hotel executives recently, and I was giving them a lot of grief for things just like that. And they told me that the number one request they get is people want to go to the room and binge their Netflix, and they had to come up with a way to make it possible for them. I said, okay, fine. You'll text me when I'll book the room. You'll say, is there anything we can do? We look forward to seeing you. You need to also say, don't forget to bring your password with you if you want to watch Netflix.
And look, there are ways that you can remember it. I'm a Google adherent, so I'm passwords.google.com. I can find all my passwords, so that isn't necessarily an obstacle for me, but it's an obstacle for most people. I can't remember half the passwords. In fact, I can't remember any of the passwords for the most part.
Yeah, I have a password manager called Dashlane, which is great, except that sometimes they don't know that I've updated the password. And that's where I get into trouble, particularly in the hotel room, and then trying to get Netflix or whatever and just saying, forget it. I'll open up the laptop. I've got a 16-inch screen. I put it right in front of my face, watching in bed in a hotel room. It looks fabulous.
Jefferson Graham, we're coming down to the end of this segment, and also the end of the show, but I know there's more you want to be able to impart to us as we navigate this world of tech. What's next?
Black Friday starts next week. It sounds like everything is junk and it's a closeout sale. It's not. If there's something you want, it will be discounted. Probably every company that you deal with, whether it be Amazon, Best Buy, Walmart, a software provider, they're all having Black Friday sales. Think long and hard about what you may want or need, and then shop accordingly, because you'll probably save some money. If you want an Amazon device, everything is half off. So if you need an Echo speaker, if you need a Fire TV stick, if you need a Ring doorbell, they're always historically 50% off.
I always wonder about the evolution of these shopping holidays. There used to be this clear delineation between Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but now it's kind of all thrown together, is it not?
It's all the same. I will say every year I say, oh, come on, nobody really pays any attention to this. $10 billion worth of stuff was sold on Black Friday online last year. $13+ billion was sold on Monday, Cyber Monday. Both of them were all-time records. So people pay attention.
No, they pay. I don't know about attention. They definitely pay. Jefferson Graham, outside of the TV, before I let you go, is there something that you're looking for you specifically?
This weekend on Photo Walks, which you can see on Scripps News Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and with replays on YouTube, I'm going to the 20 most Instagrammed landmarks across the United States, from New York to Monument Valley. And I think it's a lot of fun. It's a fun episode.
Let me guess. What's the place in LA with the lampposts? Is that one of them?
That would be LACMA.
LACMA.
Yeah, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art.
Is it on the list?
It is not on the list. If you're going to do LA, there's this other thing that's kind of people get really big on. It's a long sign, and they're really big on it. Yeah.
Don't give it away.
All right.
Jefferson Graham, I did not expect to be able to talk to you today, but a wonderful conversation. I can nerd out and talk all things tech with you all day long. Hopefully we get to do it again sometime in the future.
Hopefully. Thank you, Mo.
Have a great day.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Kim, I had way too much fun today. Way too much fun. Tony, I had way too much fun today. I blame both of you.
I blame you. I just have to thank you for filling in at the drop of a hat. Thanks, Tony, for all the stuff and all the pictures and all the videos.
Today's kind of a breakneck pace today.
Yeah, Mo, what an amazing moment for you to just kind of slide in and go for it. You're amazing.
I said last Friday, I said, if you need me. I didn't know it'd be Tuesday.
It could be any time. We'll keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. What a nice surprise to have you today. Hopefully everything's back together with Mark's electricity at his house, but what a nice thing to be able to turn to you in an emergency and have you just take over and do such a great job. Appreciate you, Mo.
Appreciate you as well. All those listening and watching, thank you so much for supporting me and the Mark Thompson Show. Mark will be back tomorrow. Fingers crossed. And then, hey, what's coming up on the show tomorrow? Kim's Investor Knowledge.
John Rothman will be on the show tomorrow, and hopefully Mark Thompson.
For the Mark Thompson Show.
We'll find out.
Bye-bye.
We'll find
Until
out.
then.
Stay tuned.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.